Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back. So, iPad 7th gen versus the 8th generation. What are the differences, and is it actually worth going to the 8th generation iPad? Well, if you look at Apple's website, spec for spec, and you rely solely on it, then the only difference you're going to find is in the processor and the video. Okay? That's it. It has a 6-core processor, 4-core video, where this has a 4-core processor and 6-core video. So I'm thinking this has definitely got the way better video because it's 6-core video processor, where you got a quad core sitting in the 8. This has a matched quad core processor where the A12 Bionic chip that is sitting in our wonderful iPad 8, yeah, it's kind of a mixture. It's a hexacore 2 times 2.5 gigahertz Vortex and 1.6 gigahertz Tempest. So that's kind of a really weird mixture even for Apple to come up with. At least I've looked at a lot of tech sheets over the years with equipment that I bought from Apple, and this is the first time I've seen anything this wacky in their octa-core processor on this thing, and that's kind of like, okay. But the question is it worth going to? Well, given that the rest of the two iPads, there is no differences according to Apple specs, I would probably say it's kind of your call on that one. Are you going to run software that can take advantage of that new processor, that weird 6-core jobby? If so, then I would say go to the 8. If not, then I would say go to the 7. Or go to the 8 anyways, because you know what? Right now, they're the exact same price. If you get the Wi-Fi only version of the 7 and the 8, they're both $549 Canadian at Best Buy. Now, the Wi-Fi cellular version is a little over $700 for this one. I don't know what the price is for the 8 because I didn't find one on their website yet. Maybe I'm still got to look around, I don't know. But from as far as I know, I mean, if the Wi-Fi onlys are the same price, then likely the Wi-Fi cellular versions are going to probably be the same price anyways. But regardless of that fact, even if the 8 is a couple of dollars more, it's kind of up to you. I mean, as far as the majority of users getting into entry-level iPads, there's not going to be a noticeable difference with the processor at all, okay? And it's not like you're shooting and editing 4K video on the tablet, on the 7 or the 8, because you don't have 4K video cameras on these things. You have the exact same cameras, front and rear. You have the same displays. You have the same amount of storage capabilities, either a 32 gig or a 128 gig. Now that's something to seriously look at, is storage space. Because as we know with Apple devices, what you get is what you get. It's not upgradable, right? However, we can hook on external drives now. We can do monitors, keyboards, mice. We can turn these things into like just small little replacement desktop machines. We can replace a lot of laptops too. But to a certain point, right? Very few games ever take advantage of high priority processors, okay? They take more advantage of video than they do of the main CPU chips. They take RAM as well, okay? So basically, you're sucking RAM and you're sucking video for video games, not so much on the processor side. So that's something else to consider as well. Now, of course, RAM is also not upgradable. They both have 3 gigabytes of RAM, which is more than adequate for running the iOS and running the software that is designed for these iPads that they run. So you're not going to have to worry about running out of memory anytime soon as far as system RAM to run programs, unless you have too many programs running in the background, because every program you run uses a certain amount of memory, and eventually the system's just going to choke out, barf, get really sluggy, and you're kind of like wondering why. Maybe you should go shut down all those background apps. If you want to avoid issues in video editing or in playing games or doing anything, always only have one app running. This way you have the most available processor, video, and RAM available for the program in which you're running. And this makes a big difference, okay? So the less programs you have running, the better it's going to be for you. it's the way it is. And that's the same on real computers too, not just on tablets. And your phone would be the same thing. You know, if you want to take a better video in higher resolution, you need to shut down all background apps, period. Don't have them running. Otherwise, yep, you're going to have some farting going on in your video, even on a 4K video camera. But these are 1080p in the back side, 720p in the front. Very adequate for your basic uses. And 1080p on the back, you know, we do use it quite a bit, but how much are we going to use the front-facing camera? They're basically for selfie pics and doing FaceTime, maybe even cutting a YouTube video on the front-facing cam because it's just convenient. And a lot of people have a lot lower budget. They can't afford an iPad and a regular computer. Some people just can afford an iPad. And the iPads do come with enough software, regardless of the version of the iPad, you could almost replace a desktop with some of the new high-end iPads, but not entirely, okay? But the possibility can exist. But it is a whole different operating system compared to a regular Mac OS, that's for sure, even though the apps are supposed to be the same apps by name. But GarageBand, for example, there's a lot of stuff on GarageBand here you absolutely are not going to be able to pull off that you can on a regular Mac computer. And the same with your iMovie. There's going to be things that are different between the two versions of iMovie. But you still have iMovie and you can do video editing on this. Now, the only way you're going to edit 4K video on this is if you bring it in from an outside source, from an external drive, which means you need an adapter and a drive, right? That's just part of the deal. Both run the first generation Apple Pencils as well. So, no big deal there either, right? And there's also the smart keyboards, right? You can run the smart keyboards on them where it just little clips in place and with a magnet, and that's it. Away you go, and you're ready to rock and roll. My wife actually has the smart keyboard for her 7th gen, and it's kind of nice. Now, I thought about buying that for this, but then I also thought, well, for what I'm using this for myself, I don't really want the keyboard for that. Now, the new iPad I just ordered in like almost 2 months ago, it should hopefully be here soon, because they said it's in the warehouse now. That one I'm definitely going to invest in a keyboard for, okay? Just because it's going to be more of a productivity tablet for me than what this is, because this to me is not a productivity tablet for the sort of stuff I do with music and video and so on. Okay, I'm also looking at the cameras that are in my new iPad, far surpass this thing, and so on and so on, right? So you buy according to your needs as well as your wants in that case. But if you're looking between the 7 and the 8, take a really good look at a lot of YouTube videos and see where that Bionic chip is going to shine. And if it's going to shine in the areas that you need that Bionic chip, then I say go for the 8. If you're not going to require it, then I'd probably say just go for the 7, because the 7 does have the advantage of the higher end video. It does have the 6-core graphics video card in this, where the other one's only a 4-core Apple GPU, right? Processor-wise, yeah, this is matched quad-core. That is a completely mismatched hexa-core in the 8, but it may have an advantage in certain circumstances only. I look at, too, if you're going to do video editing of any sort on your iPad 7 or 8, take a look at, do I save time and worthy time by going to the 8 over the 7 because of the processor, right? And what am I going to see a difference in graphics for the 4-core GPU in the 8? Is it going to be able to keep up properly with that multi-core hexa-core processor, the A12, or would this be the better way to go with the matched quad-core and the 6-core video? It's kind of a toss-up between them, and this is where you really need to investigate the two of them. Now, I've looked at enough videos myself that I know for me, there is no software out there on the planet that I'm ever going to use that would help me in any way to go to an iPad 8th gen. But for the 7th gen, yeah. And at the time, the 8th gen wasn't even out, so I did buy the 7th gen, but then when the 8th came out, I started researching it and looking at it, and it's like, okay, yeah, so it's got what appears to be a faster processor, but it does have less video. but everything else about them, spec for spec, is exactly the same. So, now at the time, there was $1 difference. The 8 was a little bit more money, but now they're the same price from what I've been finding, so you could go 7 or 8. However, what you don't want to do is go with a 32 gig iPad, regardless of what model it is. 32 gig iPads that can run the most current OS 14.3 and above, right? 32 gigs is going to be useless to you, completely useless. Why Apple would even still produce a 32 gig iPad is beyond me, because by the time you get iOS 14.3 in there, and you get your software, of course, that comes with it from Apple, and you put your own programs in that you want, you have no space. You already have almost hardly any space left over as it is with the iOS and what comes with it in 14.3 on a 32 gig iPad. So why would you go 32 gig? It's kind of pointless, right? A 64 gig iPad, well, they don't have it in 64 gig on the 7 and the 8. Your choices are 32 and 128. Now, I went with the 128 7th gen because, I know what 32 gig is like even from one of my iPad Airs, that are not iPad Air, but my iPad 6th gen. I had two of them. One was a 128 version, the other one was a 32 gig. And the 32 gig was absolutely pathetic. By the time I got on the 14.3 iOS updated all my software that comes with it from Apple, including GarageBand, Imovie, and all the other programs, and I got in my programs that I was going to use with it, I didn't have a whole lot of space left over, and I'm like, I'd be kind of yanked trying to cut a 1080p video for 20 minutes. I would run out of a lot of that space. I wouldn't have much left. And I really wouldn't have a lot of editing power left either, as far as space went. So I'm kind of like, this is just not cutting it anymore. And then the 128, of course, I thought, but I mean the 32 for just running one program extra, because I tried to keep iOS 12 on that one. It was fine with the one program, and actually two programs, OnSong and Guitar Tap Pro. Those two main programs and the Guitar Core Compass program, that was more than enough for that tablet. And that was useful for that, but not useful for anything else I wanted to do. The 128 was fine, but then I got to look at too, even though my 6th gen was still a very new tablet, right, or version of the tablet, I wanted something better, and then I thought, how about this? And it's got a really nice Retina display, and it's got a lot of other features. It's, there's a lot of better things about the 7th gen over the 6th gen, but not a whole lot of differences, okay? But, then I thought, 128 gig version. Apparently, my version got shipped with iOS 13, and that yanked me on my program. Because when my wife got hers, it had 12 on it. And we didn't get ours near the same time. So it's kind of like, man, there goes my program completely now. Right? So I'm kind of like yanked for one program. But I can get around that, right? So as operating system advances, some programs we will lose out on, or we will just have to re-download. And I tried everything under the sun, and it ain't going to work. That Guitar Tap Pro program just is never going to work on the iPad ever again. Unless the company actually, supports. We all paid for it, but we're not getting support, which kind of sucks when you pay for something. You should be getting support. So the 7th gen is just a fine tablet for the things that I do with it right now, but I want another tablet that's more superior for doing other things on, and that's why I finally decided, I'm going to go after this. I'm not going to tell you what it is because I'd spoil the fun. But the new tablet is definitely worthy of me getting an Apple Pencil, definitely worthy of me getting the keyboard for it, etc. Okay, so that's another thing that I look at there. And you need to look at these things too when you're looking at different tablets. But if right now you're looking between a 7 and an 8 and you can't make up your mind which, if you know that you're going to need that Bionic chip, and that Bionic chip will actually work for you, to save you that time, and it's a reasonable amount of time that you're saving, then I would say go Bionic processor. Otherwise, go with the 7th gen. If you just want to stay on top and play with the Joneses like the rest of us do, where we like to keep up to date all the time, go for the 8th generation no matter what. Even if you'll never use that processor to its potential, then okay, go to the 8. It's kind of up to you. Now, I don't technically stay with the Joneses very much as far as Apple stuff goes. I mean, come on, I had a late 2013 iMac for quite a while, actually a little over 4 years. Even though it was still an older machine when I bought it, it was still brand new in the box. I just recently got the late 2015 5K Retina 27-inch iMac as a replacement, and it only cost me $1,000 instead of buying it brand new, refurbished for like $1,900 at Best Buy. It's kind of ludicrous. Why would I spend almost $2,000 on a 5-year-old Mac from Best Buy that's refurbished when I could spend a couple $100 more and get a brand new 2020? But I can't afford either one of those, but I could definitely get a used in absolute cherry new condition 2015 iMac for $1,000. So that's the way I went. I'm not with the Joneses in that sense, but I do try and keep up with the Joneses as much as I can with my phones, and I'm now starting to lean more into the tablets. But just because I got a new tablet coming in, I'm not going to be replacing that tablet for at least a few years, because in the next 2 years, I have a pretty good idea what Apple's going to be pulling off, and in 2 years, I'm going to need to replace that particular tablet. And I'm going to want to as well, which is another thing. Same as my phone. It'll do me the 2 years. It would do me probably 10 years, but I do have an idea what's coming out in the next 2 years, and I'm kind of thinking, well, you know, this will do me for the next 2 years, so I'll wait and I'll do the upgrade when it's time. You know, but I'm not the kind of person that every time Apple releases 10 new phones in a year, I don't go out and buy them. I don't go out and buy 10 new tablets because 10 new tablets come out in a year. It's ridiculous, you know, and for the gains that you are getting, it ain't worth it. You know, main computers, every 5-6 years, yeah, buy a new computer, definitely. Every 7 years, if you can get 7 years out of your Mac before Apple cuts off the operating system. But as soon as they cut it off, that's when you need to replace it. But that's how I work things, you know. And my desktop is a productivity machine, and of course my PC is more for games than anything. My tablets, this one is just to run my equipment in here, and it's been serving me well for my lyric programs, but it's now going to have a permanent resident here, just running these hardware music devices that require an iOS, because they'll be fine. And then that frees up my new tablet for what I want it for, kind of thing. So, you know, that's how I work things, you know, in that sense. But anyways, take your pick, but stay away from anything that's got 32 gigs of storage in it, because it's useless. Go to the 128, and they only have 32 or 128 in the 7 and the 8, you know. And like we said, the only difference according to Apple specs is the processor. Is a higher end processor apparently, the Bionic chip, and of course they have a little bit lower end on the video side in the 8, but they do have the faster processor to, I guess, try and compensate. Me personally, I would rather have the matched quad core in the 7 with the higher end video, with the 6-core video card. But then again, we also have no way of knowing anywhere that I found so far on the net, unless I missed something, what the actual full specs of the GPU is in the 7 and the 8. We only know a certain amount, and that's it. And to me, when I'm looking at numbers, I'm looking at, I've got 6 cores of video, and games do require video. They don't require as much processor as they do video. So for that reason, I say the iPad 7th gen is the bigger bargain for the buck in that sense. If I'm saving 5 or 10 minutes of editing time, processing time by going with the Bionic processor, okay, I'll go that way. But I'm not going to save that kind of time. And besides, I got a lot of time on my hands, so what do I really care? And besides which, I don't even do video processing on my iPad. Any video I do, I ship it over to my Mac and do it on that, because the Mac can do it way faster than what the iPad can do it. So that's me. You may be different in that sense. Anyways, thanks for watching, guys. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Catch you in the next one.